What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Hashtag AskGSM, episode 210 here today for December 6th, 2017. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. What are we, 20 days out? 19 days out now from Christmas. The Christmas countdown has begun. It really started like a few weeks ago, but I am in full-on Christmas mode right now. You're not seeing it, but I'm wearing my fucking Christmas hat, and I cannot wait for the holiday season, whether you celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, or anything else in the next couple weeks. Hope you guys enjoy it. But before we get started, quick plug for you guys here today. We got the 5th annual WWE/NXT Year in Review Awards going on right now on nextairwrestling.net. I know a handful of you guys have already voted on the website for each category. If you haven't already, what the hell are you waiting for? Go to nextairwrestling.net. Vote for the match of the year, all for WWE and NXT. I used to do TNA, but who watches TNA anymore besides me? You can vote for the match of the year, the superstar of the year, women's wrestler of the year. You can vote for pretty much everything. There's about 10 to 12 categories. Some are better than others, but I thought I picked up some good choices. I've heard from some people that it was difficult to vote for certain categories over others, so that tells me I did a good job of picking some candidates for each category this year. So if you haven't already, please do so. Vote in the 2017 5th Annual WWE/NXT Year in Review Awards right now on nextairwrestling.net. There's a link on the homepage. Also, if you just go to the Week in Review tab, right underneath is the Year in Review Awards. The results will be revealed and talked about. I think you can already see the results. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't tried it out myself yet. That just goes to show how in touch I am with my current polls. They change every year with the technology on my website. But anyway, the results will be revealed and talked about and discussed on the December 28th episode of Wrestle Rant Radio, the year-end episode of the show. So be sure to check out that. And let's get started here. If you guys want to send in a question, tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop a question in the comment section down below. I'll include it in next week's edition. First question coming your way from Captain Sunshine on YouTube. What if the Woken Hardy versus Bray Wyatt feud ends with Wyatt being thrown into the lake of reincarnation and returning as Husky Harris? That would actually be pretty funny. Assuming they bring in the lake of reincarnation into WWE, I doubt it. It really remains to be seen how much of the broken universe they're going to bring into WWE. I'll talk a lot about Woken, Broken, Matt Hardy, all over this episode. We get a lot of questions about Woken Hardy, and rightfully so. I am so excited he's back on WWE TV, but I'll address that all soon enough. But yeah, it remains to be seen whether they're going to bring in Senor Benjamin, they're going to bring in his wife Rebby, and maybe King Maxwell. All that stuff would be awesome. Vanguard 1, that'd be fucking awesome. Or the dilapidated boat Skarsgård, that'd be great. But yeah, bringing in the Lake of Reincarnation just to have Bray Wyatt return as Husky Harris, albeit briefly, would be awesome. And I think we talked about it last week, if not the week before, about Bray Wyatt returning as a Husky Harris-like character, and I at first scoffed at that, Bray Wyatt's such a great character, and he is, but then you think, it's then again, the guy hasn't done anything in recent years, and maybe repackaging him as the old Husky Harris could be a nice change of pace. So who knows, if only bringing it back for a mere second would be pretty comical if they do indeed go that route. I doubt it, I know you're just kidding, but it did spark the idea that I think it'd be a cool idea if they did do it. Next question, how come Kane is still talking like normal after Braun crushed his throat instead of Kane bringing back his old voice box? If we're being forced to see another storyline about Kane trying to prove he's a real monster, at least call back that character's history. We haven't seen that in 2 decades. That would be pretty cool if they brought it back for this storyline. The whole, oh my god, he crushed his larynx or his voice box or whatever. You know what? He did the same thing to Braun 2 weeks ago. Braun was back the next week. So nothing ever really matters when it comes to Braun Strowman again. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I know you're talking about little nitpicky things. It would have been pretty cool, but they forget about those type of injuries very, very, very quickly. Here's the next question. How come Vince hasn't done a major overhaul of the commentary team on Raw? When was the last time they contributed to making anything better? I love Corey Graves. I think Corey Graves is a great asset on the team. The thing with the Raw commentary team, I do agree they need to be better or could be better. But at the same time, I feel like we need to appreciate how far they've come, which I know is not a long way. But lest we forget, it wasn't too long ago that we had fucking Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler, which at first was not a bad duo when Cole first came to Raw in 2008. But when Cole went heel, it's like, oh. I know some people have a soft spot for the Cole heel character. Very, very few people. It made me chuckle maybe once every few weeks, but beyond that, Cole's heel character was fucking atrocious and took away from Raw in more ways than one throughout 2011 and 2012 and 2010. I was not a fan of that heel duo on commentary. You can have a heel commentator. I think Corey Graves is an exceptional example of what a heel commentator should be. Michael Cole, people give him a lot of shit, and yeah, a lot of times he fucks a lot of shit up, but you know what? He's not that bad, and he can be good if he wants to be. And Booker T, I just could not care less about. He's not quite as bad as David Otunga was, who was supposed to be on Raw before Booker T came over to the Raw commentary team a few months ago, or earlier on this year, I should say. And Otunga's not coming back. He's still with the company, but they had the whole thing with Jennifer Hudson recently, and even before that, I think the guy went off to go film a movie, and he had a spot taken by Booker T, so he's not coming back ever, I don't believe, to Raw commentary. But regardless, Booker T is just not a good commentator. I mean, he's gotten better since he first came into the company 6 years ago as a commentator, but that's not saying too much. I mean, an overall, like you said, a major overhaul. Just replace Booker T with someone else. Or, you know what? What a concept. Take Booker T out the commentary team altogether and don't replace him. Don't put anyone else in that spot. Just have Michael Cole and Corey Graves. People will still complain about Michael Cole, but at the end of the day, he is still the voice of WWE. No one else is coming close to replacing him. Tom Phillips is good. He's not there yet. And Mauro Ranallo is not coming back up to the main roster, it looks like. And if he's only happy in NXT, keep him in NXT. He's a great asset over there. So other than those people, who can you really have replace Michael Cole right now? So I think Michael Cole is staying, but all you really have to do is take off fucking Booker T from the team. You don't have to have three people on a commentary team, a three-man booth. It's just not necessary. I'm not talking to you, Captain Sunshine. I'm talking to WWE here. Obviously, they don't listen, but you know what I'm saying, that we just do not need three-man booths in WWE. I don't know if any other commentary team and any other major wrestling organization has that. I know Impact Wrestling doesn't. Ring of Honor doesn't, more often than not anyway, as a permanent thing. I don't think New Japan does. Lucha definitely did not. NXT does, but that's WWE. They just do not need three people on a booth. It's not necessary. Their next question, how come Shane McMahon hates Kevin Owens for beating up his dad, yet loves Randy Orton, the only other wrestler on SmackDown to beat up his dad? No storyline consistency. I'm sure they've mentioned that at some point, that Randy Orton has had bad blood with the McMahons in the past. But at this point, it doesn't make much sense. I don't know what to tell you. I will say this, though. I was thinking about this earlier today, maybe last night, that Randy Orton might as well just go heel. They have some good heels on SmackDown, Jinder not being one of them. And Rusev, they're just not doing a ton with. He's a tag team guy at this point. And Owens and Zayn, are great, but I think Orton would be a much better fit as a heel. I mean, that's been said for years now. And Nakamura can take his place as one of the top baby faces on SmackDown. Because Nakamura, before recently, hadn't been on TV since fucking Survivor Series 3 weeks ago. So I think putting Orton in that spot on the heel side and putting Nakamura where Orton is right now, I think would be a great idea. And you can kind of play off of that. I know Orton has had issues with Owens and Zayn, but he would not necessarily have to team up with them or align with them. But he could say, yeah, like, hey, fuck the McMahons. I've never liked them. And I've never liked the Authority, blah, blah, blah. You could do something along those lines, and I'd be much more for it than having Orton face, or align rather with Shane McMahon, considering they had bad blood no more than 10 years ago. And their last question, why is Dolph Ziggler still here? I wish I could answer that. I don't know why. I wish I could, but I can't. I know he said on the recent Edge and Christian podcast, he had a lot of, very impactful things to say, I guess might be the right word. And I don't mean that as, an Impact Wrestling reference, that he's going there or anything like that. But with Dolph Ziggler, he had said a lot about, I can't really make other people look good if all I do is lose a lot, and that was my biggest downfall in WWE, blah, blah, blah. Beyond all that, I believe he had made mention in the podcast that he's got to make a decision, quote-unquote, soon. I thought his contract ran up over the summer. It didn't, obviously. I thought it ran up in the month of October. Obviously, it didn't because it's December and he's still here and he's getting a fucking title shot at the next pay-per-view. For what reason? I have no idea. And I'll talk about that soon enough. I think someone talked about that. Let me look at the questions real quick. I don't think so. I might as well just mention it here. Oh, you know what? No, I'll talk about it. RJ asked something along the lines of booking and it making sense and whatever. So I'll save it for the end. But with Dolph Ziggler, it's just sad to say. The guy's a good worker. You know what? I don't hate Dolph Ziggler. I just could not give two fucks about the guy at this point. He's got to go away. I don't hate Ziggler. I hate when people are like, oh, why do you hate Dolph Ziggler? It's like, shut the fuck up. Like, the reason I don't like Dolph Ziggler is because he is so oversaturated in this company at this point. He's so, not overused or overrated or anything like that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that there's nothing left for him to do. He's not going to get above a certain level. Having him compete for mid-card championships, God, we've seen that, what, a million times? He's been around a little longer than Kofi Kingston. Kofi Kingston, if he was still doing the mid-card thing, which he might go back to doing once the New Day runs its course, but if he was doing the IC title thing, I'd be saying the same thing about him that we've seen it a million fucking times, and who could possibly care anymore? Hopefully he makes a decision soon and he doesn't re-sign. I would love to see Dolph Ziggler over in Ring of Honor or New Japan or the Bullet Club. I think he'd be a perfect fit for the Bullet Club. But why is he still here right now? I wish I could answer that, and hopefully Ziggler can answer that himself fairly soon. And hopefully he takes off from the company and he doesn't re-sign, but I guess only time will tell. Emmanuel A. from YouTube, have you seen WWE's Match of the Year 2017 collection? On the end of the collection section on the WWE Network, you can find 25 matches selected by WWE as essentially the best of the year. I won't type out the matches they put down, but I will mention they seem to have a cutoff date, as the last match on the collection is from October 9th. Yeah, they did the same thing last year. I didn't see the list of matches for this year. Last year, I think they might have had a better collection. I think last year just was a better in-ring year for WWE than 2017. But 2017 was still a really good year overall for in-ring action between the main roster and NXT. But yeah, they did the same thing last year too, where they put out the collection like in early December. It's like, dude, the year's not over yet. What if we get a match of the year candidate from AJ Styles and Jinder Mahal, the Clash of Champions pay-per-view? You could stop laughing, but you know what I'm saying? Like, they should wait until the onset of 2018. And it's weird. You said the last match on the collection is from October 9th. Where the fuck is AJ Styles and Brock Lesnar? They must have started putting the list together at that point, so they didn't put any of their matches down from that point in time. But it's like, why wouldn't you have put down Styles and Brock? I thought that was tremendous. It was one of the best matches of the year. That seems like a notable omission from the list. But yeah, I don't really go by that stuff. They usually put up a list of their best top 25 matches of the year between the main roster and NXT around Christmas time, and I do the same thing. So I wouldn't really read too much into the collection they put up on the network. But yeah, I did hear about it. I didn't read the entire list. Someone said that Jinder Mahal and Randy Orton is on there. How the fuck did that make the list? I don't care if it was even the Money in the Bank match, which was easily the best of the bunch from that point in time. How the fuck is that match on the list? Orton and Mahal was easily the worst, one of the worst feuds all year. One of the worst series of matches I've seen in quite some time. So any one of those encounters making that list automatically makes that list a complete fluke. Just completely invalid, because that any match involving Randy Orton and Jinder against each other should not be on a list listing the best 25 matches in WWE in 2017. His second question, how do you feel about the word overrated? I remember a few years ago a friend told me he hated the word because it sounded like the most condescending thing in the world. Using the word overrated sounds like you're trying to justify an unpopular opinion as a fact, like everyone is objectively wrong for liking this thing that I don't like. Do you agree or disagree with this assessment? I disagree. I know what you mean. I can see what you're saying, but I do disagree with the term. I mean, that's basically what it's saying, that a lot of people say this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, but I don't necessarily think so. I mean, it doesn't always have to do with your opinion. I think more often than not, that's how people use the word. Let's say everyone loves AJ Styles, in which they do. I think AJ Styles might be the most universally beloved wrestler in the entire company. I do not see many people shitting on AJ Styles. And having someone say, oh, you know what, he's overrated. Yeah, in that case, one person saying that he's overrated and everyone else saying he's the greatest wrestler in the entire company, yeah, in that case, it would be like, oh, this kid is just saying that because everyone else likes him, but he truly is that good. There's no one in this company currently that I would say is overrated in WWE. I'm trying to think of people that come off the top of my head. Like people say Alexa Bliss is overrated. How honest is that assessment? I mean, is to be determined. But that would be a case where it's like everyone loves her and she's overrated, but she also is really good. I mean, she's decent in the ring. She's not great. I've seen some people say, "Oh, she's the greatest women's wrestler in the entire roster." Let's hold on a bit there, buddy. I mean, she's good. She's by far from great in the ring, but she's a great character, and she's very good in the mic. In the ring, she's not that good. So, no, I don't hate the word overrated. It's a word for a reason, but I could see based on how some people use it according to what you say. And I do agree in some cases people use it just, for the sake of, oh, everyone likes this person, but I don't, so they're overrated automatically. So I could see what you're saying, but I don't feel the same way about the word overrated. Is the word overrated? That's a good question. Deshaun K from Facebook. What's your opinion on the Bret Hart-Shawn Michaels feud? Who was right and who was wrong? Was there really a right and wrong, though, in the Michaels and Bret Hart feud? They just didn't like each other. Shawn Michaels was a fucking asshole back then, so if I had to choose, I'd say Bret Hart was in the right. But it was just more a case of one guy not liking the other and vice versa. It's not really a right and wrong situation. Bret Hart was in the right for the Montreal Screwjob. He was definitely fucked over in that instance. But beyond that, in the whole feud, if you're talking about, like, from a real life, I don't know if you're talking about from, like, the on-air perspective or in real life. In real life, there's no real right and wrong when it comes to Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, for the most part. Michaels came off like a douche more often than not at that point in time. But beyond that, it was more a case of just they don't like each other, and that was the only reason why they were feuding. His second question, do you think Woken Matt Hardy should be moved to SmackDown and be pushed heavily in the main event scene? Right now, I would say no. Like, December's a weird time because he's not going to go to SmackDown overnight and win the fucking WWE title from AJ Styles. That just won't happen. Maybe in the next Superstar shakeup after WrestleMania. I've seen some people say maybe Matt Hardy stays on Raw and Jeff goes to SmackDown because Jeff said he should be back around WrestleMania time. So I could see them splitting them up, but in all honesty, I would keep both guys in the same show. If maybe not to feud again. We've seen a Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy feud between TNA and WWE like 3 or 4 times already. But if they want to do the Woken Hardy Boys, the Broken Hardys, whatever, that would be pretty cool as a tag team. I don't know if Matt Hardy's ever going to be a main event guy again. Yes, he was the world champion over in Impact Wrestling, but that was even before he was broken. The entire time that he was broken in TNA, he was a tag team guy. They were tag team champions for a long time. They had to leave the company with the tag team titles. They didn't even drop the belts. They left with the tag team championships. But he was never a main event guy. He was easily the most overacting in the entire company. And could he have been the world champion instead of Bobby Lashley or Eddie Edwards? I would say sure. I mean, the guy was over, and it was a great character, and it still is, I think, which I'll get to again soon enough. I don't know if it's world championship material in WWE. I'm not saying he shouldn't be a top act, but seeing him as world champion in WWE at this point, that might be pushing it. I don't know if they would put a world championship, especially on the Woken Matt Hardy character. It's going to be a great act, and they should do it properly. It shouldn't be an undercard act by any means. But a main event guy, like, how seriously can you take the guy facing AJ Styles? Like, Matt Hardy, the character, is great. Matt Hardy, the wrestler, is also very, very good. But, like, can he have a series of serious matches with AJ Styles in this character? I would argue not. So I'm going to say no to that. And I love the Woken Matt Hardy stuff. I love Matt Hardy himself. But I'm a big fan of his, but I do not see him being a main event guy, especially with this gimmick. I don't think Vince would ever allow that. But hey, you know what? They made the face of TNA the WWE champion twice, so you never know, I guess. His next question, what title belts in WWE do you think need a major change? No real belts come to mind. I fucking hated the old WWE title, the one that we had before the current one, and there's still a lot of people out there that don't like the current WWE title design. Hell, if it was up to me, I too would want back the old Winged Eagle Championship. That would be awesome. Or the one that was rumored for the Universal Championship. If there's any, actually, you know what? Speaking of such, now that you mention it, if there's any one title that needs a major overhaul, it would be the Universal title. It's an ugly belt design. I am shocked. I am fucking shocked. I have seen as many people as I have with a customary actual replica championship of the Universal title at like Comic-Con, the Comic-Con that I went to about a month and a half ago. About a month ago, I've seen it at other wrestling shows. It's like, wow, people really like that Universal title apparently because people are buying it. I don't know if they like the championship design as so much as it's, one of the world titles on one show right now. And it'd probably be selling just as many world heavyweight title belts if that belt was still around today. But yeah, I would get rid of that fucking design. That's an ugly belt design. It's not as hated as it was when it first came out at SummerSlam last year. People got over that very, very quickly, as many of us expected we would, us fans would. But switching up that belt design, at this point, they put a lot of money into that thing, so I'm not sure if they're going to change it so quickly. It's only been a year. But maybe at least the color or just getting something different from the WWE title. Getting two very different designs of the World Championships, I think, is imperative. Having different tag titles and women's titles, that doesn't bother me so much. I don't really care too much about that. And I'm glad we have we still have the IC and US title designs. I know there was a rumor earlier on this year that we might be getting new championships, which I'm glad never came to fruition. It's been close to a year since that was teased, and nothing ever came of that little comment that Dean Ambrose said that on SmackDown like earlier on this year that, I want a new IC title belt. And that might have been designed to plant the seeds for a new belt for the IC championship and maybe even the US title, but it never happened, thankfully. I like the belt designs. But yeah, if I had to choose any one title that needs a major overhaul, it would be the Universal Championship. In his last question here, who do you see as a potential replacement for a leader of the Bullet Club when Kenny Omega leaves New Japan Pro Wrestling? This might not be the most popular opinion, but if and when Kenny Omega leaves the Bullet Club and leaves New Japan, probably to go to WWE, they should end the Bullet Club. Because I feel like wherever Kenny Omega goes, the Young Bucks are soon to follow. So I don't know if that means when Kenny Omega's contract is up in 2018, 2019, whatever. I think the Young Bucks in Omega's contract, their contracts are up in New Japan and Ring of Honor respectively around the same time. So if they wanted to go to WWE around January of 2019 together, they could. And I think that'd be as good of a time as ever. But if they wanted to wait a little longer, they could. I think all roads end with WWE for these guys. And they could always leave WWE if they're not used the right way. But I think for as much bad blood as there seemingly has been between specifically the Bullet Club and WWE, and again, specifically the Young Bucks and WWE, I think they will end up there at some point down the road. And they've never said they won't go. They just said they won't go right now, which I completely agree with. The Bullet Club is super hot at the moment. But they are the heart and soul of that group. I'm not sure when Omega joined. I know he was in the Bullet Club when I saw the Wrestle Kingdom 9 show or whatever it was, like 3 years ago in December of 2015. I know he was a part of the group then, so he's been a part of the group for a long time now. But if he leaves and the Young Bucks, and they're probably going to go together, they're probably going to leave all together, the group should end as a unit. But I will say this, though. I am stoked for the Bullet Club success. They have not yet followed in the footsteps of the NWO, which got watered down arguably after like a year, maybe a year if not two. It got watered down very, very quickly. Now, the Bullet Club has a lot of members. It has had a lot of members in the past, but it remains one of the hottest acts in all of wrestling. I could not tell you how many Bullet Club shirts I've seen at wrestling shows, and even at the Rhode Island Comic-Con that I went to that I talked about earlier, that I mentioned that I went to about a month ago. I saw so many Bullet Club shirts. I saw maybe one Macho Man costume at like a Comic-Con, not a wrestling event, a fucking Comic-Con. So many Bullet Club shirts. There was a lot of wrestlers that appeared at the event, like Christian and Howard Finkel and Batista. No Bullet Club guys. There was a lot of Bullet Club shirts. So they remain a super hot act. They've been able to evolve and bring in new members like Cody and Marty Scurll and all these other guys, Adam Cole, before he left earlier on this year. So I think the Bullet Club, the way they've been able to maintain this popularity is awesome, but it's got to end at some point, and they might as well end it when Omega leaves, which, again, I assume might be when his contract is up in late 2018, about a year from now, if not early 2019. But if and when that does happen, they might as well just end the whole group. Because by that point, the Bullet Club, I think they're celebrating 5 years in March. The Bullet Club has been around for almost 5 years exactly, which is crazy to think about. But when Omega leaves, they should just end the group altogether, especially when he and the Young Bucks leave at some point, I would assume in the next year and a half, like I said. Andre G from Facebook, should Neville return to Raw or start fresh on SmackDown? So I haven't heard an update on Neville in a few weeks. I know the last rumor going around was that he had made amends or talks were going well with WWE and that he could be due back on TV anytime now. I think that report came out right before the pay-per-view, right before Survivor Series. And it's been 3 weeks since the pay-per-view, and we haven't heard anything about it. So anything more about Neville. So I'm not sure what his status is. At this point, he's been off TV for just about 2 months, 2.5 months. I gotta go. I might have mentioned it here on the show. I think Jeremy might have asked a question about it. But I gotta give credit where credit is due. At Jeremy8911 from Twitter, and I'll talk about Jeremy in a second for one of his Facebook questions. But he pitched the idea of having Neville join Zayn and Owens as having a problem with authority and an anti-authority stable. That would be pretty cool. Him and Zayn have great chemistry anyway. We know they're all best friends, Neville, Zayn, and Owens. And it would be the best thing to get him out of the fucking Cruiserweight division, so you might as well. So yeah, I like the idea of him starting fresh on SmackDown. You could say that while he was gone, his contract expired, and he's going over to SmackDown. Raw didn't care about me. They put me in the fucking Cruiserweight division. And I'm here to align with Sami Zayn and Owens. Both guys are two guys he has very good chemistry and history with. So I would put Neville on SmackDown, but if he returns to Raw, he can't be in the Cruiserweight division. The Cruiserweight division is well beneath. It's been beneath him for a long time now. And it did wonders for his heel character, don't get me wrong. But at this point, it's time to move on. If he comes back, I don't want to see Neville and Enzo part 2. Just, who cares? Who the fuck could possibly care, you know? I'd rather just see Neville move on to the mid-card division. Who's our current IC champion? Roman Reigns? Neville and Roman Reigns would be a very, very interesting, maybe possibly excellent match. I think, not even possible, I think it would be a great match. Roman Reigns delivers when it matters most, and he's a very good performer, period. But I think Neville and Roman Reigns for an IC title open challenge could be fucking awesome. So I would say that, but if I had to choose, I would say start fresh on SmackDown would be the better option between the two. His second question, will Cedric Alexander be the next person to leave WWE because of being stuck in the Cruiserweight division? So, speaking of the Cruiserweight division, I don't think so. I think he seems happy where he's at. I don't know if he would follow in the footsteps of an Austin. I mean, Austin Aries didn't leave. They fired him. According to him, he got fired, so he didn't really leave because he was unhappy. He would have stayed. He would have happily stayed and jobbed out in the Cruiserweight division as long as they had a plan for him, but apparently they didn't, and they let him go. That's according to Austin Aries and the Talk is Jericho podcast. Neville left, reportedly because he was unhappy. I think Cedric Alexander, I don't think he'll leave, at least not right now. I mean, you got to remember, the guy is super talented, but before he came to WWE, the guy was doing nothing in Ring of Honor. That's where he was right before he came over to the Cruiserweight Classic, and he had an amazing showing in the Classic against Kota Ibushi in the second round. That was fucking amazing. One of the best matches all year. But it wasn't like the guy was a top guy in Ring of Honor or something. The guy was with Ring of Honor for a long time, and he was not doing anything. He had a forgettable feud with Moose, I think in 2014 or 2015, and I think he beat Moose. I think he might have been one of the first people to beat Moose, and it went nowhere. The guy was doing next to nothing in Ring of Honor, so him leaving was the best thing that could have happened. He's a great wrestler, and I think it will be his time eventually, whether it be in the Cruiserweight division or beyond. But yeah, when I was talking about WrestleMania Access, and mind you, this was earlier on this year, and I think he was out hurt at that point in time. But he seemed happy with where he's at. And if you look at his tweets, it seems like he's living the dream in WWE, despite the fact the Cruiserweight division is a dead end. But hopefully at some point, whether he wins the Cruiserweight Championship or moves on from the division, I think big things are in store for the kid. He's still pretty young. He's got to be under 30 years old. I'm going to look it up right now, but he can't be that old. Let's see, Cedric Alexander, good old Wikipedia. How old is he? 28 years old. The guy's got his whole career ahead of him, so I think WWE would not release him and he wouldn't leave. I think he's going to be a big star no matter what. Jeremy B. from Facebook, his question was, could you see Drew Gulak becoming the number one contender and going on to beat Enzo for the title? No, I don't. I like Drew Gulak. The guy's really grown on me with his PowerPoint gimmick. It's fucking hilarious, I think. But I don't think he'll become the number one contender. I don't think he's going to win the championship, let alone become number one contender. I think Rich Swann and Enzo is pretty much a lock. It's a fresh match. We have yet to see it. I think Gulak is only really in this spot to play a decent foil for Swann, even though it's pretty obvious that Swann is winning. I would have done Swann and Alexander for the number one contendership. I like Gulak, but I think it'd be a better match and much less predictable, much more unpredictable, but it is what it is. But yeah, I don't think Gulak will win that match or go on to win the championship. Enzo just won the belt back. They got to stop fucking playing, hokey pokey or a hot potato with the Cruiserweight Championship. They got to move on with Enzo as champion for the time being. When I say move on, I mean move on with Enzo as champion. It's not the best choice, but the guy just won back the belt a little over a month ago. And before that, it was Kalisto, then Enzo, then Neville, then Tozawa, then Neville. The belt's changed hands at least 5 or 6 times in the last couple of months. So keep it on Enzo for the foreseeable future. And hopefully someone like Alexander dethrones him as champion at some point down the road. Or even Hideo Itami. I would not be surprised if we had Swann and Enzo as an interim feud. And then Itami comes in after that match, lays out Enzo, takes the title from him at like the Royal Rumble. That'd be pretty cool. Next question. Could you see us possibly getting a tag team of Woken, Matt Hardy, and Bray Wyatt? Yeah, it's possible. I think it might be honestly more possible than a feud between the two. And really, that might be a win-win. I think Woken Matt Hardy can survive on his own. Here's the thing, though. You know what? I like that idea a lot more than a feud. Because the matches aren't going to be great. Let's face it. That Matt Hardy-Bray Wyatt match a few weeks ago was a fucking piece of shit. No one cared. That was before Woken Matt, but it was a complete waste of time. It wasn't good. It was a dud of a match. So the matches that Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt will have, even though the promo I thought they had, the promo exchange they had on Monday was awesome. And Bray Wyatt, I never thought I would say that about one of his promos again, but the guy can deliver. It's just that his promos mean nothing. But when you put a guy whose promos mean nothing up against another guy whose promos mean nothing with Matt Hardy, and they're just the delivery is great, then I think it's awesome. It makes for great TV. So it really works in that case. And for one time, Bray Wyatt's promos work, finally. But I think having them form a tag team would be a better option. Because neither guy has to lose. And maybe they win the Raw tag team titles from the bar. I mean, the Shield just lost on Raw. They might get a rematch. They got screwed out of the title rematch by Samoa Joe. So I guess they could do a winner-take-all 6-man tag team match with Joe and the Shield and the bar. But yeah, Woken Matt and Bray Wyatt. Woken and Wyatt would not be a bad idea as a tag team. Because at least it keeps Bray Wyatt from losing again. And Woken Matt losing to Bray at this point would be disastrous. So I don't really want either one of those scenarios. So putting them in a tag team would be a decent idea until Jeff Hardy's back. And then I know someone had pitched to me, I think it was Flair Country on Twitter, who asked the question. I'll get to him soon enough. But he pitched to me the idea of doing a Woken Matt, Bray Wyatt, and Brother Nero trio against the Balor Club. Whatever gets Balor with the club, at this point it might not even matter, because none of them mean anything right now. Balor could not be more directionless, and the club is fucking beyond damaged. Maybe not damaged goods, but they're pretty damaged right now. But it would be a cool match if it was built up the right way. @_John Knapp from Twitter, my brother John, his question was, is it too late for the broken Woken Matt Hardy gimmick? I personally enjoyed it for what it was in TNA, but I'm not sure it could survive a second run in WWE, where the performer's individual creativity is sometimes stifled. I completely agree, and this is coming from someone who loves the broken Woken stuff with Matt Hardy. I loved it in TNA. I've been waiting a long time for it in WWE. I thought what we got on Monday's Raw was great. It's only night 1. We'll see where it goes, or if they ruin it come next Monday night. And I don't mean to sound pessimistic or negative or whatever, but it's like that's the track record with this company. And you guys know I've talked about it here on the show a million times. How optimistic am I? Do I try to be about the product? A lot more than I should be. So for me to say that I don't have hope that the company's going to do right by the gimmick is saying something. And it's not because I'm naturally pessimistic by any means. It's merely because the company has a track record of not doing right by certain gimmicks, especially those that aren't their own. They didn't create Broken Matt. Maybe that's why they're using the Woken name, is because if they trademark that, then Matt can use Broken when he eventually leaves WWE again down the road, which I think is great. if it's going to be the same broken character, essentially, from what it looks like on Raw, it will be going forward, which is great, then I'm fine with that. Broken, Woken, doesn't matter. It's just one little change of the word that doesn't really make that big of a difference. But yeah, I completely agree, because a lot of what came out of a lot of what made that broken universe so great in TNA was that, say what you will about TNA, but they gave Matt Hardy essentially complete creative control of that character. All the promos that he cut at his house on the Hardy compound, with Brother Nero, Final Deletion, that was 95% Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy. That was all them. So will WWE give him the same creative freedom? I doubt it. It's just more a matter of what the writers are going to allow him to do. Because he's not going to go to his house and film promos. Hey, it'd be awesome if he did. I know he did for his YouTube channel after it was first teased that he was going broke and woken a few weeks ago. But it didn't air on the WWE YouTube channel, so I don't know if they would allow him to do that. But yeah, no, I completely agree. It's both what you mentioned, John, about the performer's individual creativity being stifled, which is absolutely true. A combination of that with what I just mentioned about their gimmicks that aren't their own, them not doing right by the gimmick because they didn't create the gimmick. It's less a WWE thing and more a Vince McMahon thing, I feel like. Oh, if I didn't create this and I don't want anything to do with it, I don't want it to succeed in WWE. That's pretty much been the mentality for a long time. Not always. I mean, Samoa Joe and AJ Styles, both guys have done phenomenal in WWE with their current names. They didn't call him CJ Miles or Joey Samoa or some shit like that. They're going by their real names, or their real in-ring names anyway, and having great success on both Raw and SmackDown, respectively. But they weren't gimmicks, though. Those guys are performers, which at one point I would have said, WWE didn't create them, then they won't go anywhere, which I'm glad I was wrong about, but they're more performers than they are characters. Broken Matt is a character. This you gotta tread very, very carefully with. Because with AJ, you just gotta let him go in there and do his thing in the ring, and that's all that matters. I mean, they could limit him in the ring, which maybe they have done to an extent, but the guy's still having great matches, so it hardly matters anyway. But it doesn't really matter as much for those type of guys, because they can go in there and have a great match no matter what. Broken, Woken Matt, with him, it's a matter of what they're going to allow him to do. Like, I know there was a promo that he cut on his YouTube channel earlier on this year where he said, I'm so excited I could just ejaculate with joy, yes, like something completely fucked up like that. It was hilarious. They're not going to let him say that shit, which is fine, but will they allow him to go all out with the character and not water it down? So that's the real question. Again, I don't want to get too hopeful, but above all else, I'm just happy that he's doing it. You know, you said, is it too late for the broken Matt Hardy character? I know people were saying that, like, oh, the bloom is off the rose. It's way too late. They should have done it from the start. Well, you know what? They probably would have if they had the ability to do so. If it wasn't for that fucking owl in Impact Wrestling. But, no, in all seriousness, if it wasn't for the legal issues, they probably would have allowed him to do it from the get-go. But honestly, in my personal opinion, I think it worked out wonderfully. Like, it honestly may not have worked out any better than it did. Because we got the nostalgia run from the Hardys. If they came out of WrestleMania, like, to the piano and the broken stuff, would have been cool? Absolutely. But it's like no one really got to know the broken character or where it came from. Like, for people who don't watch TNA, and there's a lot of people who don't watch TNA and have no idea what Broken or Woken Matt is, then it would have just been random. Like, why are these guys coming back with these new characters when I know them as this awesome tag team from the Attitude Era, the Ruthless Aggression Era? It would have been weird. So you have them come out with their old theme, do the whole shtick, they win the tag titles from night one. It's not like a Dudley Boys reunion where they get a great pop night one and then it's all downhill from there. And I love the Dudley Boys, but they were very prominently positioned as an enhancement tag team for everyone else in the division. The Hardy Boys, that was not the case with. They won the belts. They held the belts for a while. They had a great series of matches with Sheamus and Cesaro. Some of them were underrated, I would say, matches of the year. The Iron Man match was really, really good. They had a great Balls of Fire. And then Jeff got hurt, and now Matt really hasn't done anything for a while, but it's not coming out of nowhere. Like, he's had a losing streak going for a while. He lost to Braun Strowman, he lost to Elias, he lost to all these other people on TV. So there's a reason for him to snap and have a quote-unquote breakdown. So I think the timing could not work out any better. It's not like it's happening 5 years down the road, where they're bringing back the gimmick after so many years away. It's only been a few months. It's only been about 6, 7, 8 months, maybe at most. It's not like it's been a few years. And like I said, it's better than nothing. It's better than just them having him be regular old Matt Hardy, which isn't bad, but we've seen that before. I mean, regular old Matt Hardy only went so far the first time in WWE. He was a mid-card guy at best. And you know what? Woken Matt might also just be a mid-card guy at best, but at least it gets people excited. People remember it, and the people that don't remember it or don't know the character from TNA, I feel like they'll quickly get into it as well. Maybe not everybody, but it got a great reaction on Raw this past week. It's been getting good reactions on house shows from what I've heard. So again, it's better than nothing. It's better than just having Matt Hardy just go out there and fucking wrestle Kurt Hawkins on main event. And I'm not exaggerating either. That's what was happening for a while. He's had at least 3 or 4 matches with Kurt Hawkins on main event in the last couple of months. So I'd much rather have him enjoying himself and doing something that he created, even if the company doesn't do completely right by it. Again, fingers crossed. But it's better than just having him lose to Elias on the Survivor Series kickoff show. At HardyDX fan from Twitter as well. Speaking of Woken Matt, like I said, we had a lot of Woken Matt questions this week. Is this Woken Matt Hardy the feud to help Bray Wyatt become somewhat relevant again? You know what? It might. I thought the promo exchange, like I said earlier, they had on Raw this week was good. It's probably the best part of the entire show. So yeah, it might help make Bray relevant again. I don't know if he's going to come out of this feud winning, if they feud and not tag team like was brought up before. But you know what? I care a lot more about Bray Wyatt than I did before now that he's feuding with Woken Matt. I think it's a very logical first feud for Woken Matt, considering that Bray was the one who made him break in the first place. So yeah, I think this is great. I guess we'll see where it goes, but if Bray ends up losing, it's better than Bray beating Matt at this point. But you know what? At least Bray is finally involved in a feud that I fucking care about. I will say that much though, because everything else that he's done, the Finn Balor feud, who cares? The Seth Rollins feud was completely forgettable. The Orton feud sucked. So at least he's finally involved in something that I can sink my teeth into. His second question, is there any current woman who has secured a Hall of Fame career except Charlotte? So on the roster right now, I would say definitely Sasha Banks. I mean, again, will she go into the Hall of Fame tomorrow? No, but I'm just going off based off what we've seen so far. Charlotte obviously will be going into the Hall of Fame down the road, but I would say a lot of women, like, it's weird, there's not a lot of women from, like, 10 years or so ago, maybe except Mickie James, who's now around today, but they put in Beth Phoenix, which wasn't much of a stretch, but it's like, what, are we going to put in fucking Candice Michelle, Tori Wilson, because she was blonde and had big boobs? Like, why would you put in Tori Wilson? You know what I mean? Like, Stacy Keibler I could get, because she was a pop culture icon. They can get some publicity out of it, and she was around for a long time and was a pretty prominent character in WWE and WCW for a while. So I could see Stacy Keibler, but like, would you put fucking Dawn Marie in there? Like, they're really running out of women to induct. AJ Lee will end up there at some point, but it's way too soon, and that's definitely not happening as under Vince McMahon or maybe not Triple H's watch either, given their bad blood with CM Punk, but they could still do it if they wanted to, I guess. It's just way too soon. But yeah, so from what I'm trying to get at is that from the current regime of women, there are so many more Hall of Fame candidates on the current roster than there has ever been before. Sasha Banks is probably a given. Bayley, if she can regroup and win some more titles and get back on the right track, probably Bayley. Absolutely Alexa Bliss. In the matter of a year, which she won her first women's title on the main roster a year ago from this past Monday. So between then and now, she's won 4 women's championships. It was only really I think I did the math on during Monday's Raw, that altogether there were maybe 44 days that Alexa Bliss was not a champion for in the last year. Because she was a champion as SmackDown Women's Champion up until Elimination Chamber. Then she won back the belt 9 days later on SmackDown. She lost that belt at WrestleMania, but she got a Raw Women's title shot and won that at Payback later that month, earlier this April. Lost that belt to Sasha Banks at SummerSlam and won that belt back 8 days later, and she's held it ever since. So yeah, I think Alexa Bliss is easily a future Hall of Famer for the women. And maybe Becky Lynch as well, I would say. She's done quite a bit on SmackDown. First ever SmackDown Women's Champion. So yeah, there's many more future candidates for the women's side of the Hall of Fame than there has ever been before. Because I can't think of many women from like the last 15 years that I would say absolutely deserve a spot in the Hall of Fame. Sable, absolutely. It goes back to the whole, because she's blonde and has big boobs thing, but not really. Like, she was really a revolutionary character for a long time there in the Attitude Era with the Mark Marrow stuff and, all the other things that she did throughout the Attitude Era. She was a pretty revolutionary character, even though her match is fucking blue. And Chyna, too. Chyna's a given, but from the current roster, there's a lot of women. And his next question, are you a fan of Dave Meltzer, and do you trust his match ratings? Am I a fan of his? I mean, I'll listen to his thoughts on, like, Raw and stuff just to get another perspective. I don't really look at his match ratings. I don't put much stock in that at all. Like I said, sometimes I'll listen to his thoughts on Raw or certain pay-per-views. But beyond that, not really. It's one guy's ratings. Oh my God, AJ Styles and John Cena at the Royal Rumble didn't get 5 stars from Dave Meltzer. The world is over. It's like, who cares? Who gives a fuck? Oh, he gave 6 stars to Okada and Omega. Cool. Like, it was a great match, but it's one guy's opinion. Obviously, his opinion is revered because he's a respected journalist, and I respect him, and I respect what he's done. And his match ratings are good, are cool to find out about sometimes, but it's not the end of the world. It's one guy's opinion, so let's not get all, up in arms about his certain match ratings. At Reborn Again, from Twitter, this Nia-Enzo relationship angle, just why? That's all I got, just why? Apparently, according to the reports, they wanted to get Nia in an angle on the show that didn't involve Absolution to make Absolution. They didn't want to make Absolution look weak by having Nia dominate them, so they put her in something else, and this was it. So I read that. It's like, you couldn't have done anything else but put her in a fucking relationship angle, a love triangle with, relationship angle with Enzo Amore of all people. It's like, really? I'm sure there was more they could have done with someone else in the roster. That didn't involve 205 Live guys. Did we not just see this with Noam Dar and Alicia Fox? Like, did we not just see this no more than a year ago with the fucking cruiserweights? And that died a death, and Alicia Fox is no longer a part of 205 Live or Noam Dar's act because it went nowhere and it was terrible TV. I know it gets Nia on the show, and maybe they think, oh, maybe Nia on 205 Live is going to boost ratings. I'm going to watch 205 Live because of Nia Jax. Said no one ever. You know what? It's something. I can't say I care too much about it. Or here's the thing, though. Here's another thing that I'll just say this quickly. It's like they don't want to make Nia look weak. Also, by having her get attacked by Absolution. Okay, and they don't want to ruin her monster aura. Okay, so they want to prevent ruining her monster aura, her unstoppable aura, by putting her in a love angle with Enzo Amore. For some reason, that just doesn't add up to me. I feel like that's an oxymoron or just ironic or something. I'm not sure what the word for it would be, but I don't know. There's something wrong with that picture. His next question, what happens first? Dean Ambrose turns heel, Sami Zayn gets a main event push, or a women's match closes the show for one of the big 4 pay-per-views. Zayn getting a main event push, I think, might happen at some point. I'm a little less... I don't know. I'm less hopeful now than I was like 6 months ago when he first joined SmackDown. I know he's a part of a prominent program right now with Kevin and Shane and Daniel Bryan and whatever, but it's not like the guy's going to be going for the WWE title at any point in the near future. But it might happen. Who knows? Maybe especially on SmackDown. A women's match closing a Big 4 pay-per-view is going to happen eventually. No fucking doubt. Definitely not like a Rumble or anything. WrestleMania, probably not this year. Maybe down the road. SummerSlam should have happened by now, but SummerSlam and definitely Survivor Series, that's a huge possibility considering how Survivor Series it doesn't feel like a big enough show where you need to have the men in the main event. It doesn't matter. But I think Dean Ambrose is turning heel first. Out of the 3 things that you mentioned, I think the reason why the Shield will break up is because of an Ambrose heel turn this time and not Seth. And Ambrose needs to go heel at some point anyway. Now, I know I said that a while ago. The guy's been a babyface for over 3.5 years now at this point. But I think a heel turn is a-coming. It is a-coming, and I think it's going to happen before Zayn gets a main event push and before the women close out a Big 4 pay-per-view. And his last question here. Do you think WWE will bring up Authors of Pain and put them with Jinder Mahal as his new henchman at Clash of Champions? Or are we stuck with this never-ending cycle of Jinder beats up the Sings, yet they still crawl back to him anyway? I'm not sure what's going on with the Authors of Pain. I heard they were backstage at SmackDown, the SmackDown after Survivor Series, but they weren't, obviously didn't appear. Maybe they're brought in. the SmackDown Tag Team division has enough talent. We have 4 teams going for the titles at the pay-per-view. It'd be cool if they were on SmackDown. I think Raw might need them more. I think putting them with Jinder would be a mistake. I think either keep the Sings with Jinder and not do the whole beat them up and then they're still back together, which they've done before. But who knows? Like, they had Carmella attack James Ellsworth, and I think, I was thinking to myself, okay, they're going to put them back together next week on TV. But no, James Ellsworth was taken off TV, then fired the very next week. So I really hope that doesn't happen to the Singh brothers. They are so much better than James Ellsworth. In the ring, as characters, they have been the saving grace of the Jinder Mahal push, the character, whatever you want to call it, the experiment over the last 6-7 months. So taking them off TV and firing them would be a mistake. Putting them on 205 Live, better than nothing, or even back in NXT would not be a bad idea. But yeah, AOP with Jinder. I'm not sure if AOP was even on the most recent set of NXT tapings. I don't read the spoilers. I don't think so. So I might be wrong, but they've done it all down there anyway. They just main evented TakeOver. They were former NXT Tag Team Champions. They got the rematch. They didn't win the belts back, so it's time for them to move up. But bringing them in with Jinder, I hope not. I really hope not. I think Jinder is just better off as a mid-card guy. And they don't have that same chemistry that Jinder has with the Sings anyway. AOP with Roman Reigns, on the other hand, would be fucking cool. AOP with Samoa Joe would also be pretty cool. Jinder, not so much. At E13A from Twitter, have you ever seen this segment? He linked me to a tweet of someone talking about Miz eating a sausage shaped as a penis or something, eating pig. No, I've never seen that. I have no desire to either. His second question, have you heard about Tyler Breeze's response to people saying that he's being wasted? This is nothing new. Tyler Breeze has been going on Twitter for close to 2 years now, ever since he was brought up to the main roster. I remember there was a point early 2016 where someone tweeted him, hey, dude, why are you jobbing out on Superstars? Like, you should be back in NXT doing your thing. And he's like, I'm making more money now. I'm happy, blah, blah, blah. Tyler Breeze is very vocal about the people who say that he's being wasted. And he's being a lot better utilized now than he was at that point. He's part of Breezango now. At least he's part of the Fashion Files, and that stuff got over. But yeah, I mean, it's no real surprise. What the fuck is he going to say? Oh, yeah, I'm being wasted? Like, I mean, obviously not, but he might genuinely feel like he's not being wasted. And could they be doing more with Tyler Breeze as a singles guy? At this point, it's just long overdue. It might be past the point of no return with Tyler Breeze as a singles guy. Like, they had their chance when they called him up, they made him a jobber, and he never really recovered. So keeping him in a tag team with Fandango, if they weren't a tag team, Fandango would be gone. No question about it at this point. The guy would be fucking canned in a day. So just keeping them together, they're very entertaining together. There's nothing wrong with that. And if he was a singles guy, hey, he's much better off as a tag team guy at this point than he would be on his own, because he'd be fucking jobbing to Mojo Rawley on main event if he wasn't with Fandango right now. Ask Chris Caliste, I think that's how you pronounce it, from Twitter. Favorite Raw pay-per-view and favorite SmackDown pay-per-view since the new brand split. Also, stay safe and happy holidays. Thank you, sir. Happy holidays to you as well. Favorite Raw pay-per-view and SmackDown pay-per-view of the new brand split. SmackDown is a no-brainer. TLC 2016. We just celebrated the 1-year anniversary of the show on Monday, like I said earlier, with Alexa. That was the same show that Alexa Bliss won the SmackDown Women's Championship on, her first one. That was a great show. I watched it back last Friday, and I really, really enjoyed it. That was one of the few pay-per-views. I never do this. With the takeovers, after every takeover for the last 2 years now, I've always watched the takeovers back after the fact, like after they've aired, because I love the takeovers. I've never done that for a main roster pay-per-view with the exception of 2. WrestleMania 33, which was a given because I was there, and TLC 2016, which I just rewatched, not only just recently, but after it aired last year because I enjoyed it so much. So easily TLC 2016 for the SmackDown side. For Raw, there hasn't been one blow-away pay-per-view. Those early Raw exclusive shows, like late 2016, were fucking horrid. I was at Hell in a Cell 2016 with RJ, which was a Raw show. Fucking boring as all shit. And one of the most uneventful shows I've ever been to, and that was a pay-per-view. Clash of Champions, I'm about to rewatch for WrestleRant. I do not remember that being a great show. Roadblock was horrid. Fastlane sucked beyond belief. Payback wasn't that bad earlier this year. I thought Payback was good. Maybe not my favorite, but it was good. What else? Extreme Rules was not good. I'd probably go with Great Balls of Fire. Great Balls of Fire might have been one of the more underrated shows of the year. Between Joe and Lesnar and Strowman and Reigns in the entertaining mid-card, undercard, and the Iron Man tag team title match with the Hardys and Cesaro and Sheamus. That was a really good, strong card on the whole. So I'd probably go with Great Balls of Fire. As dumb of a name as that is, that was probably my favorite Raw pay-per-view of the current brand split. And what was after Great Balls of Fire for Raw? We had SummerSlam. We had, what else? No Mercy, that was good. I'm not going to say No Mercy just because I thought Roman and Cena I thought was really good. Strowman and Lesnar was not good. That was a very disappointing main event. That was also the same show that Enzo won the Cruiserweight Championship on. So, not No Mercy. And what else have we had recently? TLC was all right too. That was a middle of the road show. So yeah, I would probably go with Great Balls of Fire 2017 for Raw, the one and only, because I heard it's not coming back in 2018, according to the tentative the first released draft of the pay-per-view schedule for next year. Great Balls of Fire 2017 for Raw and TLC 2016 for SmackDown. At Flair Country 85. Let me just see how many... Oh, shit. We got a bunch of questions left. I'm going to try to brush through these because I got to record Wrestle Rant Radio for tomorrow coming up pretty soon. Then an Impact Wrestling conference call. So it's a pretty busy day over here at the GSM residence. But anyway, at Flair Country 85, do you think this was the original plan with Jason Jordan? Or do you think this was a shift in plan due to the heat he was gaining from the lack of experience from the Kurt Angle angle? Absolutely, they changed plans. I can guarantee you this was not the original plan. Otherwise, they would have planted the seed sooner. They realized he was not getting over the way that they hoped, I'm sure. And he lost to Miz and all this other shit. I'm sure this was not the plan. They're only doing this because he was getting heat from the crowd. So you might as well just run with it. And I thought he had a great promo on Raw this week. Probably the best promo he's cut since breaking off on his own over the summer. And the match he had with Roman was really good. So, yeah, that it was definitely a change. I mean, hey, maybe it was the original plan, but I doubt it. Based off how they were positioning him and they were booking him and having him come across in the early stages of the push, I can almost guarantee you this was not the plan from the get-go. And at least they had the decency to change plans and they turned him heel. Or at least are in the process of turning him heel, because otherwise, the guy's going to die a death as a babyface. So at least they acknowledged their mistake and are currently running with it. At Scarlet1 from Twitter, did you know Aiden English is married to Raquel Diaz, Vicky and Eddie Guerrero's daughter, meaning Aiden English is a part of the Guerrero family? I did know that. That's been public knowledge for a long time now, so I'm pretty sure I found out about it when they first got engaged, like in 2013 or 2012, whenever it was. But yeah, Aiden English is a Guerrero, technically. He is a Guerrero. Thank God he's not doing the Three Amigos on TV, though. He's not following in Chavo's footsteps. What year in wrestling can you recall having the best December? Good question. No modern year comes to mind. I can't say like 05 or 02. Like, I wasn't watching back then, so I have no idea. Not many years have had a very notable December. In the time that I've been watching, honestly, the only month of December I can remember being at least decent was 2012. I mean, there were a few months of December where a few cool things have happened, like 2015 when Roman Reigns won the belt on Raw and all this other stuff. But overall, that month sucked because the early stages of it were Sheamus as WWE champion. Those Raws were awful, terrible, terrible Raws. I enjoyed the month on the whole, but those early weeks with Raw in 2015 in December were just horrid with Sheamus as champion and Roman Reigns and the whole Tater Tot shit. That was terrible. Yeah, 2015 was not good. Last year was not good for Raw. 2014 was very forgettable. So 2012 I remember being decent because the TLC pay-per-view was great that year. And the Slammy Awards, we had Ric Flair back and Tommy Dreamer and the Boogeyman. The Shield was around. So in the last 10 years, probably 2012. But beyond that, no other month of December in the last 10 years comes to mind as being anything above average whatsoever. Next question, are you ever going to watch the 2002 to 2014 TNA weekly pay-per-views? I'm sure at some point, not anytime soon. I will not review those for Wrestle Rant. I'm just going with the start of the actual pay-per-views for TNA. I think starting with like Victory Road 2004. not the weekly pay-per-views. From how someone described it here on the show, they sound awful. So I don't really have any desire to watch them anyway. But maybe at some point down the road. Their next question. Concerning the brand-exclusive pay-per-views, does Clash of Champions look like it's going to be one of the better or worst pay-per-views of the year? Probably worse, which is why I'm not going. I was already going to Rumble anyway, but there's a few other shows that I have my eye on this month, so Clash of Champions did not lead the list of pay-per-views I wanted to go to. But yeah, with Styles and Jinder, I'm sure it's going to be a good match, but I've already seen it. Charlotte and Talia, I've already seen it. The tag title match sounds like a fucking clusterfuck. I mean, it could be a good match, but it looks like a cluster on paper. The three-way for the U.S. title, who the fuck cares? Like, the build has been completely non-existent. It could be a good match, but who cares? The tag team match with Owens and Zayn and Orton and Nakamura might be the only match I'm looking forward to. Really looking forward to, because if Owens and Zayn lose, they get fired from WWE entirely, so it's an intriguing angle. I figure the heels are going to win, but we'll see where they go with it. And Shane's the special guest referee. But yeah, on paper, it does not look like it's going to be a strong show at all. Throwing a Zack Ryder Mojo Rawley kickoff match? Good God, like, that does not sound like a strong show whatsoever. So yeah, it could be one of the worst pay-per-views of the year when all is said and done. But here's hoping that my low expectations result in a great show. At Brad Berdar, also from Twitter. We have a couple questions from him, and then RJ, then we're done. So I got to wrap up soon. How long are we into this thing anyway? We are, over an hour. Yeah, I better wrap up soon. But anyway, Brad's first question. While I agreed with pretty much everything you said last week about the Hype Bros split being done to elevate Mojo, what on earth is the point of that? The guy has very little upside, in my opinion. He's the worst worker on the SmackDown roster, aside from Tamina. True. And he's got a decent look, but loads of guys have that. Heck, Zack Ryder's got a great look, and he's got loads of upside to him as well. So why not give him another push? He more than deserves after all. Because Mojo Rawley's younger, and he's a football player. Zack Ryder's been here for 10 years. If they were going to push the guy, they would have pushed him already. That's the thing. Like, I know he got glimpses of greatness last year when he won the IC title at WrestleMania, albeit for a day. He got a very brief U.S. title push last year. He didn't win the belt, but he faced Rusev at Battleground, and he was getting good reactions, and he got the new theme and everything. But that was about it. That was as far as they're going to go with Zack Ryder. I think he could be a very valuable asset to the mid-card, I agree. But I'm just speaking realistically, that I do not think that he has a brighter future at this point than Mojo. And Mojo does suck. The guy in the ring is not that good. He's improved a little bit on the main roster, but overall he's been just not that good at all. And I think with Zack, it's been there, done that. The guy's been here for 10 years, and if they were going to push him, they would have done so already. So with Mojo, they see a former football player, a guy with connections to Gronk, which is why they're going to push him, which is sad but true. Next question. Do you remember in early 2014, it was rumored that The Miz, Zack Ryder, and Dolph Ziggler were going to form a stable based around a mutual frustration about their position in the company? If so, were you excited about the stable at the time, and how do you think it would have worked out? Yeah, I do remember that. I remember being very, very excited about it because I love Miz, I love Ryder, and I like Ziggler more then than I do now. But I always thought these three guys have great chemistry because I know they're good friends in real life. So yeah, I did hear about that. I was looking forward to it, and none of those guys were doing anything at that point. Miz, I remember one Raw where I think he was Titus O'Neil versus like Zack Ryder of all people, and Miz came out. He stormed the commentary table, and he's like, why is Zack Ryder on Raw? Why is O'Neil on Raw and I'm not? And then he just ran off, and he just stormed off into the back. And that was it. We never really got a follow-up, and Ziggler around that time, he was doing the whole thing on social media and on the YouTube channel that he was complaining about not getting opportunities, and he got that great shoot promo, quote-unquote, on the YouTube channel after the loss to Cesaro, and he was like, I'm only going to get above a certain level. Why doesn't the company back me? All this other shit. And it never went anywhere. But yeah, I think it would have been cool. I think it would have worked out because you know what? None of those guys were doing anything at that point. Ryder was a job guy. Miz was directionless. Ziggler was doing nothing. Even more so than now. Miz was he a face? Was he a heel? No one fucking knew. So yeah, it was a complete joke. I don't think it would have worked. I think it do. I do think it would have worked out. I don't know how long it would have lasted. Miz had to leave to go film the Marine 3 or something like that. The Marine 4. Yeah, it was the Marine 4, and he was back around the summertime. So I don't think it would have lasted long anyway. But I also want to say this too. I think it was Jeremy who pitched the idea. I don't think it was on this show, but like on Twitter a while ago. So once again, credit to @Jeremy8911 on the Twitter machine. He said that Miz and Ryder, or rather Ziggler and Ryder, should be the Miz's new entourage or Miztourage, whatever. Which would be cool, but they're established. Like Bo and Axel, I guess, are too, but they're fucking job guys for life. So, and they're doing great in the role. So I would not replace them with anyone at this point. But Ryder and Ziggler and Miz as a trio, maybe not with Ryder and Ziggler as lackeys for Miz, more so as as an equal playing field for all three guys, would be interesting. But I don't think they're going to do it at this point. Maybe if Miz moved over to SmackDown, it'd be pretty cool. But Ryder is still a babyface, and Ziggler should be gone soon, so at this point it's too little too late. But yeah, I do remember being very excited about a potential stable involving those three guys about 3.5 years ago. Next question from Brad. Would you like to see Breezango defeat the Usos for the SmackDown Tag Team titles at WrestleMania next year? Not really. Like, I like Breezango, and they're very fun in the ring, but we haven't really seen too much of them in the ring since the Usos feud, like earlier this year. All they've been doing is fucking backstage segments with the Fashion Files, and that's it. They haven't won a match since like June, since they wrestled at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. They rarely wrestle at all at this point. So not really. I mean, they're over to an extent, but it's not like people were super behind them on the Survivor Series kickoff show against Owens and Zayn a few weeks ago. So not really. I think there's more deserving teams than Breezango. If they're going to build them up to that point, they got to start giving them victories now, but based off how they've been used, I don't think that'll be the case. His last question here. Did you hear what Solomonster had to say about WWE's poll about why people aren't watching 205 Live? If so, what did you make of his comments? Yeah, I did hear what he had to say about the poll about 205 Live, and I totally agree. I mean, he said a lot of stuff about 205 Live and how it's not working, and why isn't it working according to WWE and the poll they put out. But one thing I completely agree with was that the poll had asked people, what stars would you want to see on 205 Live from Raw and SmackDown? Would people from Raw and SmackDown being on 205 Live make you want to watch? And essentially what that's saying, and essentially what that doing is that you're putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. Like, it's only gonna help so much. Like, putting people that aren't cruiserweights on a cruiserweight show, it's basically admitting that, hey, we fucked up with these guys. We know you don't care about them, so watch the show for the people you do care about, even if they're not cruiserweights. So that's the issue to me. Like, if they really want us to care about the cruiserweights, I know they got to work with people who do matter, like main roster people, which is probably what one of the biggest reasons why, what went wrong with the cruiserweight division in the first place, was that they introduced 20 people all at one time, expecting you to care about these guys from the get-go. But the fact is, they got to work with people who are already established. And the point of the matter is that that none of these guys were established in WWE when they first came up. So having them work with each other did not do them any good. And having a fucking Gulak and Tony Nese match in 205 Live will not make me care about either guy any more than I did before. So, I mean, again, check out his full analysis of the 205 Live poll that WWE put out on his latest podcast. I thought it was a great analysis, a great explanation as to why fans just aren't watching the show. But I think moreover than anything else, admitting your failures and saying that, hey, we're going to fix this by putting people you do care about from Raw and SmackDown on the show to make you watch, having that be a logical answer to their problems is not logical at all. It just doesn't work. If I wanted to watch AJ Styles on 205 Live, I would watch AJ Styles on SmackDown. Like Solomonster said in this podcast, we see enough of these people as it is on Raw and SmackDown. We do not need more of them on 205 Live. They need to find another approach to make people care about this show. Having them do tours and stuff, you know what? Great for them. I just do not think at all that's a good idea whatsoever. They're running the Lowell Memorial Auditorium in January. The same building I went to NXT at twice, but most recently in September. It's a good auditorium for that type of thing, but Are people really going to want to buy tickets to a show with Drew Gulak versus fucking TJP? Who gives a shit? Who the fuck cares? Oh, no, but they'll have better matches than the live events. They won't be restricted. Like, well, okay. I realize they've been restricted on TV and maybe not so much the live events. Okay, but the casual fan doesn't know that. They see the lineup for that show and they're like, wow, that's not exciting at all. I don't watch 205 Live. Why would I make an effort to pay money to go see these guys compete by themselves without Raw or SmackDown guys being there? It sounds like a fucking disaster. So we'll see how it works out. I don't wish anything but success for these guys, and it's not even their fucking fault. It's the company's. But I think the running live events after putting out a poll asking people why they're not watching the show is not a great sign. I'll just say that. Last question here from @RJ_Marceau from the Twitter machine. My brother RJ, Mr. Marceau. His question was the following. If you were Daniel Bryan, how would you book the women on SmackDown? Seems logical to add Ruby Riott or one of the members of the Riott Squad to the title match between Charlotte and Natalya. But what are GSM's 2 cents? Made no sense. It made no fucking sense. I wrote about this in my SmackDown review last night for Next Era. So let me get this straight. We had Charlotte and Natalya Part 2 for the title. A feud I don't care about, by the way. I like Charlotte, but Natalya, who cares? We had the rematch of the title on SmackDown a few weeks ago. The reason we're having this rematch was because that other match got interrupted. By who? The Riott Squad. So instead of having a steel cage match, which they did, by the way, at Starrcade, which I heard was very good, which is great. They had it at Starrcade. But it wasn't a televised show. They should have just moved on from the feud. So I understand giving Natalya a rematch of the title. But how much sense does it make? How much fucking sense does it make to make this match a lumberjack match? Because the whole reason the match got messed up in the first place between Charlotte and Natalya on SmackDown was because of the fucking Riott Squad. So why would you put them at ringside when they messed up the first match? What is stopping them from interfering in this one? That doesn't make any fucking sense. Any fucking sense. Let alone, like you said, RJ, Ruby Riott, like she pointed out on SmackDown last night, pinned the goddamn champion clean as a sheet on SmackDown last week in that 6-woman tag team match. But she's not in the match. I'm not saying you need to do Charlotte versus Ruby. You could do Charlotte, Ruby, and Natalya. That's a much more exciting match than Charlotte and Natalya Part 29 with a fucking lumberjill stipulation. Why would I care about that match? It doesn't make any sense. I know you're talking from a kayfabe standpoint. So am I. Both from an actual booking standpoint, from a kayfabe standpoint. From a kayfabe standpoint, if you want to limit interference, put them in a cage. And even that would probably allow or encourage interference, because it always does in this fucking company. But encouraging them to interfere by putting them at ringside for a match they already fucked up once a few weeks ago, how does that make any sense at all? It fucking doesn't. That's your answer. And I want to say this too. The US title match, what the fuck? Who cares? I like Baron Corbin. I like Bobby Roode. Dolph Ziggler? At this point, like I talked about earlier. But it's like, what the hell did Ziggler do to deserve a shot at that title? According to Dolph Ziggler on SmackDown last night, they were just full of explanations last night on SmackDown, with Ruby saying, I beat the champion, and Daniel Bryan completely ignores it, and he just makes it a lumberjack match. So they acknowledge our issues with these matches, but they just offer very dumb explanations. So anyway, Ziggler on SmackDown last night, he goes, why am I in this match? And you know what his answer was? He goes, because I'm a former world champion. Okay, so let's bring back Swagger and put him in the match too. It's like, what the fuck? It's like Ziggler has not made a meaningful appearance on TV since Halloween. Not a week ago, not 2 weeks ago, since fucking Halloween over a month ago, where he lost to Bobby Roode in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Before beating Bobby Roode, which was a complete waste on SmackDown in October, before that, Ziggler had not won a televised match since fucking May. Yet he's getting a US title match at the next pay-per-view. It's like, what is going on right now? They had to have changed writers on SmackDown, because the booking on the show was great a year ago. Everything made sense, and everything was logical. and fun to follow. What the fuck happened? Did they give the pencil to Road Dogg over there? Is this all Road Dogg's fault? Like, what is going on SmackDown these days? It makes no sense. No sense. Like, with AJ and Jinder, why wouldn't you not make that a steel cage match? Why would you not make that a steel cage match after the Sings have interfered 5 times? And like John had alluded to earlier, they could be right back with Jinder next week. It's not necessarily meaning the attack does not necessarily mean they're done as a unit. It's just, so what's stopping them from interfering? What's stopping what's stopping the Riot Squad from interfering and causing that match to be thrown out again? Yeah. I know logic is not this company's strong suit, okay? But some things just, let's wrap this up. I'm just getting pissed off at this point. If you guys want to send in questions for #AskGSM, tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant, the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, be sure to drop a question in the comment section down below on this very video. I'll include it in next week's edition. So one last time, guys, if you haven't already, be sure to vote in the 2017 5th Annual WWE/NXT Year in Review Awards on nextairwrestling.net. Polls close on December 28th. So all that being said, guys, follow me on the socials. All the links are in the description box down below. Have an awesome rest of your week. I got to cool off. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Have a very happy holiday season, and I'll catch your ass down the road.